What is going on? As most of you guys know, do a bunch of fabrication here. I have gotten some comments within regards to like requesting like a fixture type video. And so that's what this video is going to kind of be about. Not really in depth, but in depth, if that makes any sense. As you're familiar with my brother's Subaru, we are doing an 8 swap in that car. Anyways, this diff is gonna fit in there, but in order to do that properly, we need to make a rear subframe. The goal is to literally figure out how to fixture up the factory cross member, not only for the actual bolts that will bolt the cross member to the chassis, but then also the control arms or the lateral link bars that bolt to the subframe and then to the spindle. This is kind of what we've got started so far, and I will break this down to show you, but we got our lower rectangular frame, and that literally is to fixture or to place these points where those need to be picked up from. Now, the factory bushings here, they have a lot of play, so that's why the bolt may not seem dead center, is because there is play in these from the factory. They're not as true as not in particularly me, not that I would like them more square than the factory, but it's just what happens. They give such a huge margin for error when building parts in a factory that kind of stuff happens. So that's just to explain that. So we got those points fixtured up. And then the next most important thing is getting the control arm or the lateral link bar mounting spots fixed. And that's what we got going on here. So haven't gotten it all welded up yet, but we went ahead, cut some straight links, drilled some holes, used some bolts, and we got that in there. Now these will bolt here, not bolt, sorry. They will actually weld onto there. And then we will end up, welding tube down there to a piece of angle iron that will bolt to the lower part of the fixture, so that once we get it all welded out and everything, we can literally move the top part of the fixture and then the cross member can come out. So that is what we're doing. Obviously with work and stuff, this has to happen after hours because, you know, got other stuff I need to do. So this is like on my free time. Yeah. But the farther we get along with this, I'll be sure to record it and post it up so you guys can kind of get an idea as to fixturing, what goes into it. Now with cross member stuff like this, especially in this case, there's not a whole lot of like tight spot, like clearancing stuff. There are some areas that are a little snug, but for the most part, it's kind of just make a fixture to get all this stuff placed, to build to it, and then you're good. Turbo kits and stuff like that are different because you might have tight spots with like steering shafts, frame rails, cross members, transmission, engine, all kinds of stuff. So obviously you need to add points of reference for clearance spots if that's what you're doing. But for this in particular, this is a little more lax to say. So we're gonna get into it. This time, you guys saw this, we just saw the legs, right? So you can see we got this all welded. So this is just to locate where these lateral link bars go. Now, since this is for the 8.8 rear diff, I'm not gonna be picking up any other mounting spots, at least not right now. This fixture is solely for the purpose of the 8.8. Alex went and picked up some angle iron. The goal here is I want this to be removable, right? So I'm gonna end up using this angle iron, which then I will drill holes in this bar and I will tack these nuts in place flush with the tube. And then I will drill holes, about probably 3 or 4 on the top, and then use bolts to bolt this down. Once this is bolted down, then we can run a leg from here down to here, weld it, and then that is that. Do the same thing kind of on the other side. But then this will allow for these points to be unbolted, removed, and then the cross member can come out. And then we can put in the aftermarket cross member, the base of it, and get it in there, and then we can build up to these points. So this is the whole, like, fixturing takes a little bit of time. That's why, like, that's why if like a vendor or someone gets a hold of me and they want something to be fixtured, like if they want to do private label type stuff, I have to make my own fixtures for this stuff. So that means I have to spend time doing this to make it repeatable. Some cars, you got really tight spots. And with the, like I had mentioned in the first part of this video, you know, for stuff like this, it's kind of like, not that the door is wide open, there is more margin for error, if that makes sense. On some manifolds, there is no margin for error. On some downpipes, there is no margin for error. If you've got a 3-inch downpipe, it needs to go a certain route to clear everything and to work, then you have to work within those boundaries, right? You can't really go beyond it. You can't get creative in that sense. You can't allow the fixture to become lax and have a big margin for error. So with this, there is some margin for error, but with the way that we're doing the fixture, it's gonna position everything just right. We are gonna make adjustable control arm, like the lateral link bars are gonna have adjustable spots so that we can adjust per ride height. This car is going to be running a anti-roll bar, not a sway bar. So there's a bunch of things on this that we need the Crossmember to be about as robust as possible, and doing it the way that we're gonna do it is gonna allow for that. So I think my brother's gonna head over here. If he does, then he's gonna be able to get you know, the holes drilled in this, get this all prepped, so then he can weld in the nuts and everything like that. Alex is fairly capable, even though at times he doubts himself, but I've worked with him and trained him to weld years ago, so I have no, I trust him completely. So yeah, so what we're gonna do here on this, and I'll explain this to him too when he's here, but we'll drill the holes in this angle first, right? So we'll drill one here, one here, one here, and one here. Once these holes are drilled, then we can plop it down on our, you know, our fixture, get it squared up with our center mark there, get this bar squared up, and then indicate each hole, then drill the holes in the tube, and then we can get our nuts inset and get these oversized, and then we use socket style bolts. That taper right there on the bottom side of that bolt is what's going to help to align everything. So this is a good way to cheaply make stuff pretty accurate if you use hardware like this. You know, lower base all figured up. And this is what I was referring to earlier on in the video. So we made this removable section of the fixture, right? So you got a bolt here, and then we've got bolts on that side too, as you can see, to allow us to remove this, because once we get the legs up that, you know, wrap around the outside here for the control arms, we need to be able to remove this, otherwise this will not come out. So it has to be a modular type fixture, which is what we've got. So this will locate the stock position of the control arms. And what we'll probably end up doing with the ones that we weld on is we'll probably end up adding probably 3 holes. You know, the center one will be the factory position. We'll have a lower and then an upper position, just so you can get those lateral links, so you can get them at the right, you know, angle at ride height. So yeah, so this is kind of it's like a male-female type situation where we needed to pick up the factory points. So we used some tube that fits snugly in the Crossmember, and this is what we got. I did refer to like turbo headers and how some components require a more complicated fixture, but even for my equal lengths, like the secondary runner, as I call it, it's pretty simple. Like that's it, right? So obviously this piece needs to be trimmed up. I don't trim this up until this is welded up, but this is, you know, very simple. All it does is it locates where this flange needs to be at, and then that's it. So once I get the main body of the manifold done, bolt it on the fixture, get this flange in there and located. It actually has like a locating collar in here, so it keeps the flange center. And yeah, so when doing fixtures, you can honestly make it as complicated or as simple as you would like. And like I had mentioned, if you do have like margin for error on the side of caution, right? Trying to get things like to fit just in a fixture that is very precise. Not that it's hard, it just takes a little more time. So if it's something where you do have more room, right, more margin for error, then err on the side of caution, give yourself a little bit of wiggle room. But in most cases, you kind of have like a, I don't know, as long as the flanges are in the right spot and you kind of follow your original design, you're usually okay. For instance, here is my equal length runner fixture. This literally just helps me to get these runners set in here right. I have all the measurements, you know, for all the bends, all that stuff. So once they all get tacked together, they fit in this thing. As long as the lower runner fits in here, then the upper runner will fit in, and then that's it. We're good to go. Making fixtures is pretty simple. Some things are a little more complicated, especially if you've got like a bunch of pickup points. You've got to try to keep everything accurate. I hope this video kind of helps. I know it's a lot of talking, not a whole lot of working in this one, but I figured we kind of go over just the basics within regards to fixtures, you know, how to, I don't know, you do you. But yeah, so if you got a welder, man, I'm sure you could figure it out. But yeah, so a fixture video. Truck's about wrapped up, literally needs a tune, and then this thing's like technically done. So pretty excited about that, because then I can start driving this thing, which will be nice. But fixtures, all that goodness. Yeah, get out there, build something, man. Just do it. It's true. It's true.